Discover the incredible love story that changed 1 million lives. Hidden truths revealed. In Maplewood, where barbecue smoke curled into the sky and the sweet sounds of laughter mingled with ball games, life thudded along a familiar beat. Sarah, a 28-year-old waitress with dreams clawing at her heart, poured coffee into chipped mugs at the local diner. Each morning started the same. She'd tie her hair back, slip on her apron and greet the regulars with a smile while bearing the weight of overdue bills on her shoulders. But today felt different, charged with an unnameable energy. As she filled the cups, a man entered, his presence instantly shifting the atmosphere. Tom, a solemn figure with blue eyes that seemed to hold echoes of 1,000 stories, sat down in a corner booth. The flash of metals on his jacket told of sacrifice, while the hollowness behind his smile spoke of pain. But when their eyes met, an unspoken connection flickered, a spark igniting possibilities they both yearned for amidst challenging lives. "Do you take your coffee black?" Sarah asked, her voice soft yet curious. A slight smile tugged at Tom's lips, and for a moment their worlds blurred. "That's just how I like it," he replied. Each word felt like an unraveling of the chaos in her heart. They talked long after the patrons had left, sharing little pieces of themselves over steaming cups. It was laughter beneath the starlit sky, whispered secrets, and a connection growing stronger. But shadows lurked. As their hearts entwined, the murmur of disapproval echoed around them. Sarah's father roared about knowing her place, while her mother, loving yet worried, fretted over Tom's mental state. Everywhere, whispers grew like thunderclouds, threatening to break the fragile peace they had begun to cultivate. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to change the dialogue, Sarah and Tom decided to throw a summer block party, hoping to bridge the gaps between their families, to unite the town, and to show that love could conquer prejudice. Planning filled their days with dreams, laughter, and outlets for their fears. They hung banners and strung lights like stars, but ominous clouds gathered overhead, casting shadows on their plans. Then the storm hit. The clouds split open, releasing a deluge that mirrored the turmoil inside Sarah and Tom. Old family secrets surfaced, and resentments boiled over. Under the pounding rain, tempers flared. Sarah found herself standing at the edge of her dreams, staring into the chaos. Would they withstand the storm, or would the raging waters, much like the weight of societal expectations, wash away everything they fought for? As thunder rolled and specters of the past collided with hope for the future, Sarah's heart raced with uncertainty. Would they emerge stronger? Or would the storm drown their love? A choice loomed just ahead: stay together or let go. The clouds thickened, yet a small light began to flicker within. Sarah stood in the deluge, her heart racing as she glanced at Tom. The rain poured relentlessly, mirroring the chaos threatening their world. Voices from across the street were barely audible, but she could sense the tension in the air. Families huddled together, pointing fingers, their faces twisted in disbelief. It felt like a dam had broken, unleashing a flood of emotions and unresolved issues. "Tom," she called over the roar of the storm, her voice rising and falling like the crashing waves. "We can't let this tear us apart." He turned to her, soaking wet but steadfast, determination gleaming in his eyes amidst the chaos. "I won't let them push us apart, Sarah. We've come too far." As they faced the tempest together, the warmth of their connection provided an anchor against the storm. The weight of their worlds collided, and it was as if the universe had flipped the script on them. The townsfolk had their opinions and old wounds were flaring, but Sarah knew the truth. In that moment, while rain dripped from his hair and mixed with the dew of life still blossoming around them, Tom took a step closer, brushing her cheek with a gentle hand. "We want this too badly to throw it all away. Let us make our voices heard." With the sound of thunder rumbling behind them, Sarah made a decision. They would not retreat into shadows, silence, or shame. They would fight for their love. Not just for themselves but for everyone who felt trapped by the chorus of judgment. "Let us take this storm head-on," she said, her courage igniting like a spark. United, they turned toward the gathering crowd, whispers swelling into waves of chatter around them. "What are you doing?" asked Sarah's mother, her brows knit with worry. "This is not the time." "But it's exactly the time," shouted Tom, his voice rising defiantly above the storm. "If we don't stand for what we believe, then we lose everything that we have fought for. Love isn't supposed to be hidden." The crowd quieted, eyes watching, hearts racing. For a brief moment it felt like the world had paused, a shared breath held in the storm's deafening embrace. A few seconds passed, and then Mrs. Taylor, the town librarian, stepped forward, her expression softening. "Tom's right. Love shouldn't hide away. It's about acceptance no matter how hard the road." Encouraged by her words, others began to chime in. The energy shifted as people considered that life might be more than simply following long-set expectations. This was their chance to reshape Maplewood, to broaden its boundaries and rewrite the future. As the rain lightened, hope crackled in the air like electricity. Sarah grabbed Tom's hand, squeezing it tight. The storm might have sought to drown their love, but it instead revealed the community's heart, a chance to truly come together. Just as their spirits began to lift, a deep voice rang out from the back of the crowd. "You don't really think this will end well, do you?" Every head turned, tension thickening the air again. Who could challenge their newfound strength? Who would sow doubt as they'd begun to bloom? Sarah's heartbeat quickened. Would they have the courage to stand in the face of fear and uncertainty? Was the road ahead laden with more storms, or could they finally find a way to let love shine through? The question hung heavy in the air, begging an answer that could either unite them or tear the fragile momentum apart. Would they continue to fight for their shared dream? Or would the voices of skepticism reclaim the narrative? The next step would be everything. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting to the source of the voice. A tall man, his face half hidden beneath a soaked baseball cap, stepped forward, his expression a mix of concern and skepticism. "You really think being open about this is going to change anything?" he challenged, his words rolling like the distant thunder. Sarah felt the weight of the moment crumple around her like the falling rain. Doubt cast its cold shadow across the faces of those gathered, and she could see it seeping into the hearts of friends and family who had come, perhaps expecting a celebration, not a battleground. "It doesn't matter what you think," Tom shot back, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "This is about us, about love. And we're not asking for permission anymore." "Love?" The man scoffed. "Is that what you call it? You'll only end up hurting each other. Maplewood isn't ready for this." His words hung in the air, a dark cloud over the fragile hope that had begun to spark. But before Sarah could react, Mrs. Taylor stepped beside Tom, her voice firm yet warm. "And maybe it's time we show them that Maplewood can be better. We've kept too many truths hidden for too long, and it's tearing us apart. It's time to embrace our differences." A murmur ran through the crowd, hesitant at first, but then swelling into a chorus of support. People began to nod, some even stepped forward, emboldened by Mrs. Taylor's courage. Sarah's heart raced, feeling the shift in the atmosphere, as if the storm outside was finally beginning to abate. "Look around," Tom said, lifting his chin defiantly. "You're not alone in this. We stand together, and together we can reshape our community. Together we love." The man remained stony-faced, yet a flicker of uncertainty passed through his eyes. Sarah moved closer to Tom, anchoring herself to him both physically and emotionally. She couldn't let the doubt creep in. Not now, when everything felt so alive with potential. The woman in the crowd choked back a sob. "I wish I had had the strength you both have. I needed this reminder." Others began to chime in, voicing their fears, their struggles, their hopes. "Maybe I'm just scared," one voice quivered. "What if this divides us even more?" Sarah felt the urgency rise. That's the chance we have to take. If we can't be honest with ourselves and each other, what are we fighting for? We've been living in the shadows for too long. The rain began to ease completely, the final droplets falling like soft whispers against the pavement. The sky hinted at blue, a promise of clearer days to come. But just when Sarah thought they had turned the corner, heavy footsteps echoed from behind, cutting through the moment. "Enough!" boomed a voice, commanding and authoritative. The town mayor, a figure long regarded as the enforcer of tradition, pushed through the crowd, eyes blazing. "This is unacceptable. I won't let you ruin Maplewood's reputation and its future." The collective tension snapped back like a taut wire. Sarah's heart sank. People began to exchange worried glances. Would the storm they had begun to embrace really lead them to a new dawn? Or would it unleash forces far more destructive? Stand strong, Tom whispered to her, but doubt clouded her mind. How could they stand against the established order when everything they believed in was on the line? They owed it to each other to try. But what if the battle was already lost before they even took their stand? As the mayor's disapproving gaze scanned the crowd, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, had they opened Pandora's box? Or had they finally found a way to rise above? The next moment would decide their fate. The air crackled tension as the mayor's voice ricocheted off the buildings lining Main Street. Sarah felt her breath hitch, each word he spoke hitting like raindrops pelting against the pavement, cold and sharp. It felt as if the entire town was holding its collective breath, waiting for a sign of what would happen next. Do you really think, he continued, his tone incredulous, that a simple gathering, some misguided notion of love, will change the hearts of people who have lived by these traditions for generations? The crowd trembled, whispers cascading through like a wave. Tom stepped forward, unwavering. It's not misguided. It's the truth, and that matters more than your traditions. What's more important? Protecting a reputation or embracing the people in your community? Sarah marveled at his bravery. She felt her heart swell with appreciation, but inside a storm brewed. Could they actually change minds? Or were they simply inviting chaos? As she glanced around, she could see faces reflecting fear, uncertainty, and glimmers of support. Mrs. Taylor's expression was fierce, resolute. Behind her, a few crowd members looked inspired, as if Tom's words had flicked a light switch in their souls. We are more than what you think we are, she called out. We deserve a chance to love openly without fear. The mayor's eyes flashed, challenged but collected. You're stirring the pot of discord. You talk of love, but you're just inciting division. No, a man from the back shouted. No more divisions. It's time we stood together. Love is stronger than fear. The chorus of voices grew, building in volume, echoing off the old brick buildings, rising to the clouds above. A flood of warmth washed over Sarah in that moment. She grabbed Tom's hand, squeezing it tightly, their palms slick with rain. They were no longer just participants in a confrontation. They were a part of something bigger, a movement. Love wasn't just a word today. It was vibrant and pulsing like the beat of a drum. But before the surge of hope could wash over her entirely, the mayor took a step closer. This is what you want, then? To tear apart our community? To turn friends into enemies? With her heart pounding, Sarah realized the mayor's statement pierced deeper than she expected. This wasn't soccer practice. This was a battle for their identities, their very lives. No, she said, voice trembling but firm. We want to unite, not divide. Only truth can lead us to healing. The people behind her, who moments ago showed hesitation, nodded, murmurs sharpening into clear affirmations. One voice, a young woman with bright eyes, stepped forward. Not sharing who we are has only hurt each other. It's time we stopped inauthentic living. The mayor faltered, momentarily caught off guard by the swell of resolve coming from Sarah's side. The populace began joining hands, forming a chain of solidarity, their confidence spiraling higher. But there was still doubt lingering in Sarah's mind, the question gnawing away at her heart. Would this newfound strength hold against the weight of history? Before she could lose herself in that spiral, Tom squeezed her hand tighter. We keep speaking our truth, he said softly. That's all we can do. And with that, they waded deeper into the storm, fueled by love and desperation. But as the mayor's furious glare burned through the crowd, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what would happen when loyalty met authority. Would love indeed triumph, or would the resistance be crushed before it had a chance to bloom? The battle was only just beginning. The crowd began to sway like a field of wheat caught in a fierce wind. Voices intertwined, some uplifting, others trembling with uncertainty. But amidst the din, hope glimmered. Sarah stayed close to Tom, their fingers woven together as if they were stitching their futures from the very fabric of this moment. The mayor's presence felt oppressive, like an iron weight pressing down on the goodwill, gathering strength in the air. Enough! The mayor's voice boomed again, cutting through the emotions that were cresting like ocean waves. You're naive if you believe you can simply turn hearts with rallying cries and emotion. People are afraid of what they don't understand. Fear is what divides us. Mrs. Taylor yelled, her voice rising above the rest, invigorated by the conviction of her message. And it's that fear we fight against. Love breaks down barriers. It brings us together at our most vulnerable. Sarah felt a surge of admiration for the older woman. It wasn't just about her own struggle anymore. It was a shared battle, a tapestry of lives woven into a single narrative. Each thread represented stories, dreams, and aspirations that couldn't be silenced. The murmur of the crowd shifted, gaining momentum. Glances exchanged among friends and neighbors, commitments forged through shared humanity. Slowly, hands began to raise unbidden, fists clenched, and faces set in expressions of defiance and purpose. But the mayor stood firm. You think this chain you're forming supports love? It only acts as a noose around your necks. You will bring humiliation and shame to our community. Not shame but pride. A young man shouted from the back. I want to be proud of who I am. We all do. No more hiding. His words rippled through the crowd like a pebble tossed in peaceful waters, shattering silence and transforming it into applause. Applause for truth. Applause for acceptance. Pride. The crowd echoed, the word bouncing off brick walls and carrying a melody of liberation. Yet a chilling silence suddenly cloaked Sarah's heart. What if they were wrong? What if this gathering only brought more pain, more division? The anxiety tightened her throat. She was a part of this beautiful movement, but was her love enough? Would it really change the hearts hardened by years of tradition? Just then Tom turned to her, eyes filled with a fierce resolve that washed over her like warm sunshine. Believe in our truth, Sarah. That's stronger than the mayor or any tradition. Before she could reply, the mayor yanked his phone from his pocket. He began recording, intent on exposing them, a harbinger of a possible backlash. Sarah felt a cold dread wash over her. He wants to expose us, she said, fear quaking in her voice. Let him, Tom replied, unwavering. Let the truth be exposed. We've been in the shadows for too long. The crowd cheered, a sound that rolled like thunder, energizing the air around them. The weight of history still loomed, but love was igniting something entirely new and fierce within them. Yet just as the moment reached its highest point, a flash of red and blue light spun behind the mayor, the sounds of sirens slicing through the air like a knife. The crowd turned collectively in shock, confusion painting their faces. What is happening? Sarah whispered, gripping Tom's hand tighter. Stay strong, Tom breathed, tension electrifying his voice. They sensed an impending storm, a realization like a dark cloud that had hardly crossed their minds. The mayor smiled, dark satisfaction flickering across his face. This is your movement's end, he declared as the officers stepped out of their vehicles, with hearts racing and fear churning in their stomachs. Sarah and Tom exchanged a determined glance. Would this new challenge crush the burgeoning spirit of unity they had fought so hard for? The moment had arrived, but the battle was far from over. Would this spark of love be enough to withstand the approaching storm? The police officers stepped forward, the sun flashing off their badges like ominous little beacons. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, an unrelenting rhythm of fear and determination. Tom tightened his grip on her hand, his strength anchoring her amidst the chaos. The crowd shifted uneasily, a tide of uncertainty rising with each passing second. What do they want? Someone murmured nearby, a glimmer of panic threading through the voices. The mayor, emboldened, smirked as he motioned toward the crowd. They are here to enforce the law. This gathering, this rebellion is against town regulations. His words dripped with disdain, each syllable a calculated strike aimed at those who dared to dream of something different. But then, a voice rose above the murmurs. We have every right to be here. We are not breaking any laws. It was Mrs. Taylor again, her older frame trembling but fierce, like a lighthouse standing defiantly against a storm. More voices joined hers, and soon a chorus of defiance brewed. We stand for love. Let us be heard. The shouts grew louder, mingling with the sirens in a wild dance of resistance. Sarah felt it. A swell of energy, a surge of courage. Each bold declaration fed into her resolve, and she found herself shouting alongside them. Tom's eyes glimmered with pride as he joined in, their unity binding them tighter than fear ever could. The officers exchanged looks. Were they prepared for this level of passion? One with eyes like steel stepped forward. We will disperse this crowd, or we will issue citations. His tone was firm, but the flicker of uncertainty betrayed him. Tom took a step forward, the space between them and the officers crackling with tension. "We're not leaving. Not today. This is our home. And this is our fight." The officers shifted, their expressions clouded by uncertainty. Beyond just a mere gathering, they were witnessing a community finding its voice, a wave of love rising against oppressive forces. In that moment, something shifted within Sarah. Her uncertainties faded like shadows in the dawn. She could feel the energy, radiating from every heart encircled around her, a sea of determination unwavering against adversity. What if their love was enough? What if unity truly could break down the walls? Then another police officer stepped forward, a younger one, her brow furrowed with concern. "You know you don't have to do this," she said softly. "There's always another way." Her sincerity caught Sarah off guard. Could this officer really feel the shifting tide? The realization sent a thrill through her. Perhaps it was possible to bridge the divide even with those who wore badges. Tom met Sarah's gaze, an understanding sparking between them. This was more than a confrontation. It was their chance to extend their love beyond the crowd, and into the hearts of those standing opposite them. "Join us," Sarah said, her voice steady and clear. "Help us fight for a community where everyone belongs." She hoped the words carried, like whispers of hope dancing on the wind. The crowd held its breath, the air vibrating with expectation. Could this officer, this unlikely ally, be swayed to their side? Would she dare to challenge the status quo? As silence stretched, Sarah's heart pounded. The crowd, a living heartbeat, echoed her racing thoughts. She felt a connection to each face around her. They were all a part of this journey. With all eyes on the officer, the moment felt suspended in time, ripe with possibility. Would this be the turning point that changed everything, a step towards acceptance and understanding? Or would they face a crackdown, further entrenching them in that dark cloud? Once more, love lingered in the air, intertwined with the tension. Whatever happened next would echo long after they left that spot, but they knew deep down the fight was only beginning. What choice would the officer make? The young officer hesitated, her brow furrowing deeper. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, heavier than her uniform and badge. Around her the tension crackled like a live wire. She glanced at her fellow officers, who stood rigid, ready for orders but unsure how to handle the growing fervor of the crowd. "Join us," Sarah's words echoed in her ears, almost hypnotic in their simplicity. In that instant, she felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. She had joined the force with a desire to protect her community, to uphold justice. But lately the line between right and wrong felt increasingly blurred. "Listen," she said, taking a deep breath. "I've seen how things have changed in this town. There's so much fear and so many people feel unheard." Her voice barely rose above the hum of the crowd, but every ear seemed fixed on her. A wave of murmurs rippled through the gathering. Sarah's heart surged. Was this officer really about to take a stand? The officer continued, "But I'm just one person. I can't single-handedly change things." She scanned the sea of faces before her, filled with determination and hope. A glimmer of belief opened up inside her. "What you're doing, it matters. It really does." But Tom stepped closer, urgency in his voice. "But what? You can be part of this change. Stand with us." He took a moment to gather his thoughts, the gravity of their circumstances fully sinking in. "What if we told you that standing with us means standing for justice? For everyone who feels invisible, for everyone who has ever been told they don't belong? You can be the change you want to see." As Tom spoke, Sarah could see the officer's resolve softening. She watched the steel in her eyes flicker, drawn in by the passion around her. The crowd swayed with hope. It felt as though they were on the brink of something monumental. "What if," the officer murmured, a delicate tremor in her voice. "What if I tell my superiors about what is happening here?" Cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing the swelling energy. "Yes, yes." Their voices wove together in a chorus of support, lifting the tension, creating a bridge of understanding between worlds that had once felt divided. Yet, the officer's face clouded. "But I could lose my job, my partner, my future." She was torn. The fear of repercussion clashed with the yearning to do what was right. Sarah stepped forward. "You won't just change your future. You'll change lives, including your own. Together we can make this town a safe haven. Not just for some, but for everyone." Isn't that worth the risk? The officer's eyes glistened with unbidden tears. For a brief moment, she could feel the weight of her badge lift. It was as if everything around them faded, leaving just her, Sarah, and the shared dream of belonging that echoed in their hearts. Then a loud, commanding voice sliced through the air. "Officer, we need to proceed. The situation is getting out of hand." It was her superior stepping forward, grounding the moment in a harsh reality. Panic flashed across the officer's face. But what could she say? Would she risk everything for a group of determined dreamers? As the crowd fell silent, Sarah felt something shift again. It wasn't over. A spark of courage lit her heart. She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto the officer's. "You are not just a badge. You are a voice in our community. Choose to be that voice." The air hummed with anticipation. The pivotal moment was finally here. Would the officer stand with them and change the course of their lives forever? Or would she retreat back into the confines of the uniform? What choice would she make? And would it be enough to ignite the fire of change? A stillness enveloped them all as they awaited her decision, hearts united in hope. The officer's breath caught in her throat. In that moment the world around her blurred. She felt the warmth of the crowd pressing against her, a rising tide of dreams and fears. Each face was a reflection of her own internal struggle. The noise of her superior faded into a dull roar as her heart raced, pounding a drumbeat of uncertainty. "Choose." Sarah's voice broke through the haze, anchoring her thoughts. What would that choice mean? She could feel every expectation hers, the crowd's, her partner's stacked like stones on her shoulders. Would they understand? She whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Her eyes darted toward the front lines of the gathering. The tension danced in the air, palpable and thick. Would stepping forward mean betraying her duty to the badge she wore? "Think about everyone who feels powerless," Tom urged, stepping closer, his breath easy yet filled with urgency. "You have a chance to stand up for them, to give them a voice. Imagine what could happen, a new path forward." Doubt flickered within her. What if her action didn't lead to a bridge, but a chasm between her and those she loved? The harsh reality of broken relationships loomed large. She could envision herself facing her partner, their love overshadowed by a choice she never meant to make. But beneath the chaos, something else stirred, a longing deeper than fear. What if, she pondered aloud, feeling the words slip past her lips before she could stop them, what if I took that risk? Yes, Sarah breathed, her eyes alight with hope. Take that step. You'd want someone to do the same for you if the roles were reversed, wouldn't you? The crowd leaned forward, a collective breath held in anticipation. In her heart the scales began to tip. Courage surged through her veins, mingled with a hint of trepidation. But as she looked out over the sea of supporters, she sensed a change, a sense of unity, a burgeoning belief that they could really shift things together. As she started, her voice steadying, "I want to be that voice for change. I want." A scuffle interrupted her, a figure bursting through the crowd toward her. The rough exterior of the new arrival struck her as disruptive. A younger man, face painted with desperation, reached her side. "Officer, please. They're coming," he gasped, his panic only a breath away from pure terror. "Who's coming?" the officer demanded, eyes wide. "More officers. They're coming, and I think they're aiming to break us up." His voice shook, infused with an urgency that jolted the air. The revelation swept through the crowd like wildfire, igniting panic and fear. Protecting the people she had just considered standing beside now felt even more urgent. "Stay here," she yelled to the crowd, her officer's instinct taking over. The fear that had been paralyzing her backfired, sparking a rush of protective instincts. Looking back at Sarah and Tom, she felt a surge of determination. "I'll talk to them," she declared, head held high. The officer's loyalty shifted from the uniform to the humanity that surrounded her, the faces that mirrored her hopes and fears. As she stepped back from the group, the atmosphere thickened once again. Would she be able to convince her superiors? And if she did, what would the repercussions be on her life and those she loved? Fear mingled with hope as she made her way toward the approaching officers, her heart racing wildly in her chest. What awaited her when she reached the line of uniforms? Would they hear her? Or would she face the harsh consequences of her decision? The crowd watched with bated breath, the question lingering in the air as she braced herself for what lay ahead. The clash of emotions swirled within her as she approached the line of officers, their imposing figures casting long shadows. The noise from the gathering faded, replaced by the steady thump of her heartbeat, each pulse a reminder of the weight of her decision. She could feel the gaze of the crowd searing into her back, a mix of hope and trepidation pressing down on her. "Hold the line!" one officer shouted, his voice sharp and unwavering, slicing through the tension. He was young, maybe in his 20s, cheeks flushed with the adrenaline of authority. She took a deep breath, letting it fill her lungs before forming the words that felt heavy on her tongue. "Please listen to me." The barrier of uniforms shifted slightly, intrigue mingled with caution. "Why?" Another officer shot back, crossing his arms, distrust evident in his posture. "Why should we listen to you?" "Because I'm with you," she declared, a desperate note creeping into her voice. "I understand your duty, but these people here, this is about so much more than just orders." The murmur rippled through the officers, some exchanging glances. She could see the skepticism in their eyes, mirrored by the uncertainty clenched in her gut. Every instinct screamed at her to stand tall, to be firm, to embody the change she wished to see. "Look," she continued, her voice shaking only slightly now, "they're not just a crowd. They're mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. They're afraid and tired of being silenced. What if instead of tearing us apart, we found a way to understand each other?" Silence hung in the air like a cloud before a storm, pregnant with possibilities. The younger officer's brow furrowed, his posture softening ever so slightly. It wasn't a full break yet, but the crack in his armor felt monumental. "Do you think they'll listen?" he challenged, skepticism wrapped in curiosity. "Maybe they will," she replied, stepping further into their space. "Maybe they need to. Don't we owe it to them to find a way?" A ripple of voices from the crowd reached her ears, a hopeful murmur that seemed to align with her sentiment. Could she be that voice for change? Or would she fall back into the role that had her stepping on others to maintain order? The tension in the air began to shift, and she caught sight of Sarah and Tom, their faces twisted with equal parts anxiety and hope. In that split second, she felt something unlock within her, a spontaneity born from the chaos around her. "There's a chance here," she began, heart racing. "A chance to be part of something bigger. We could set an example, show that we don't have to choose sides. Together we can build bridges." The younger officer hesitated, glancing back at his comrades, who were now whispering among themselves. Their collective murmurs rose and fell, like the waves of an ocean around her. But she knew this could only happen if she took one more step forward. "Please," she added, vulnerability slicing through her. "Let us not turn this into a fight. Let us turn it into a conversation." His gaze locked with hers, uncertainty warring against a glimmer of understanding. A flicker sparked in his eyes, a possibility of change. Before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the sound of heavy boots approaching shattered the moment. Reinforcements, it seemed, were finally arriving. What now? She wondered, dread curling in her stomach. Would her plea be lost in the rising tension, drowned by the advancing forces? And then, like a siren cutting through the chaos, she caught a glimpse of an old friend at the forefront of the new officers. Her heart plummeted. Would he support her, or would he turn against her just like so many others? The moment hung heavy in the air, each heartbeat echoing the question. Would she find support in the chaos, or would she stand alone? The crowd's tension erupted into whispers, fear coiling tightly around Sarah's heart as the officers advanced. Her mind raced, pleading for a sign that their fight was not in vain. The officer she had just spoken to looked back, urgency stretching his brows. She could see him wrestling with his conscience. "Listen," he shouted over the approaching reinforcements, his voice rising above the apprehensive murmurs. "This isn't the time to escalate things." There was a flicker of hope within the crowd. "Maybe it's time to step forward together," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the uncertainty like a ray of sunlight. "We can show that both sides can work together, that love can replace fear." The younger officer took a deep breath, and his eyes lit up with an idea. "Maybe," he began, hesitating but clearly thinking it through. "What if we facilitated a meeting? Just to talk? No threats, just dialogue?" The crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and cautious optimism, energy shifting purposefully. "That's it," Tom shouted, his hand squeezing Sarah's with hope. "Let us put all the fears on the table. The weight of possibilities hovered in the air, resonating like a heartbeat. Watching this officer cling to that thread of hope, Sarah felt the tension loosen ever so slightly. Agreed, the officer said, stepping further in, challenging his counterpart's stances. We are here to serve the community, not segregate it. I say we allow a space for everyone to speak their truth. But then her old friend, a grim look on his face, stepped forward. This isn't the way it's supposed to be, and you all know the rules. If you don't disperse now, I will recommend disciplinary actions. His voice was sharp, laden with authority. Then what will we tell those feeling oppressed? That their voices don't matter? The young officer turned back, the struggle of identities hanging heavy in the air. Exactly. If it takes a bit of disobedience for something good to come, then is it really wrong? A woman from the crowd shouted, erupting into encouragement. The air exploded with words, fanning the flames of bravery. We want to listen. A voice shouted. We're all in this together. The momentum shifted once more. People linking arms, forging a united front that snaked through the crowd. Sarah felt the energy surge through her, the warmth of their shared convictions igniting something profound within her. Inch by inch they were dismantling the barriers of fear, rebuilding them with kindness, understanding and love. Just think, Sarah shouted, facing the officers. Imagine how it would feel for those out there that have never been seen, never been heard. What if we could change that? Create a Maplewood where everyone belongs? That thought echoed in the hearts of many, her courage lighting a fire that burned brighter as if fueled by the very storm that had shaken them. Are we really ready for a change? For listening more than scolding? The young officer's turmoil faded, replaced by the strength of choice that blossomed between them. Yes. The crowd roared, the sound of their joined voices ringing loud against the fading chaos as the clouds dissipated above, leaving a gleaming blue sky. An agreement was reached, a chance for dialogue to flow without judgment. And with that decision, the crowd transformed from the landscape of fear to one of hopeful possibilities. All right, her old friend said, tone softening. We'll meet on the community center steps tomorrow. Let us hash this out with respect. Sarah's heart swelled. Emotions cascaded through her like a river rushing to the sea. Relief, hope, and the resounding strength of community. As their hands intertwined, deeper ties forming, Sarah beamed a radiant smile at Tom, knowing full well this was just the beginning. Through their love and bravery they had rewritten their story and perhaps unraveled the tightly wound traditions binding their town. People began to murmur, excitement lifting their spirits, and as tears of joy mixed with the remnants of rain on the asphalt, a new dawn highlighted Maplewood, a place where love could flourish. Openly. And in that moment of unity, amidst every heart willing to crumble barriers, Sarah finally understood sometimes storms bring the most beautiful transformations. What little seeds of change had sprouted, with roots entwined deep in love, would continue to cultivate a future where love was always louder than fear. Let us take that leap forward. If you believe in transformation, in love's undeniable strength, now is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire even more lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let us make our voices louder together. Comment your thoughts, your feelings about this powerful ending. How did it impact you? And please share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread this love and message. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.